Before we jump into this, I would just quickly like to say, if you can hear the fan in the background, I apologise, but it's really hot in the UK at the moment, so I need it on to save myself from sweating loads whilst I'm playing games and recording videos. And then before we actually get into it, because this is going to be a Minecraft Dungeons review, I would like to let you guys know there will be a key, which will be for Xbox. If you don't own the Game Pass, the game is like £17 or something, so there will be a key at some point in this video on the screen, which you can redeem on your Xbox and you can get the game. Also, I've been watching a lot more reviews, not just for the case of watching them to find out about games I'm wanting to play, but also because I've been doing a lot more reviews myself lately, so I've been picking up tips and learning more about how to structure the videos. If there is one reviewer on YouTube I can recommend, it would 100% be worth a buy. He's open, he's honest, he'll tell you exactly what he thinks, he doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He's just straight up honest, and I love it. And not only that, he has a comedy side to him as well. Incredibly funny to watch. And he himself has always warned people, if you're watching reviewers and they are putting out reviews before the game is released, then just be a little bit hasty, because a lot of the time it'll be because they've been given the game for free, blah-de-blah-de-blah-da, like so on and so forth. I watched a review by SkillUp, and the review was for Minecraft Dungeons, and watching that review put me on the fence about the game, because SkillUp said that it takes around 3 or 4 hours to complete the campaign, because there are only 9 missions in the game. And I would just like to point out, like, nothing against SkillUp. I watch both SkillUp and Layman Gaming. I do enjoy the channels and watching the content. But this one Minecraft Dungeons review was structured really, really bad, because playing the game myself is completely different. And I mean, if you are making it through all 9 levels in the space of 3 or 4 hours, then you are doing it wrong. You are not playing the game how it's supposed to be played. This game does take time. It's an ARPG. It's a dungeon crawler. You are supposed to explore every single corner of the world. Every single mission, dungeon you go into, you are supposed to explore. And not only that, you will never ever pick up absolutely everything available from one dungeon in that first run. These dungeons are procedurally generated, so every time you go back into the same dungeon, it will have a completely different layout. There are different gear drops, there are different artifacts that you can pick up, and you will never get them all on your first run, so you have to go back through and play through them again. There is a tutorial on this game. It just, like, it basically tells you the fundamentals, like what you're supposed to be doing. It gets you started. And the tutorial will end with you being at your camp. And then you have the choice to play the game in co-op. You can play an online game. I believe you can have people randomly join your game if you set it to just open. Not 100% sure about that though, but me, Con and Pete have been playing, like, everything we've done on this game has been 3-player co-op. And I don't know how it works because I haven't actually done the main dungeons solo, but there are so many mobs that spawn, it is ridiculous. And ridiculous in a good way. There's not a bad way. But before we get into the mobs and them spawning, there are different dungeons on this game. As I said, there are 9 missions in total, but there's, like, from the first dungeon you unlock a secret mission. And there are lots of different difficulties. When you're playing on default, which is the first, like, world difficulty, you have 6 different tiers. It goes from default 1 to default 6. And I would highly recommend avoiding trying default 6 until you are close to the recommended power, which should be 27. But SkillUp said that this game takes about 3 to 4 hours to complete the first difficulty, and Creepy Crypt, which is the secret dungeon, that literally took us, for one run to go through it, it took us an hour. There was so much to explore, it was insane. It was the longest one we've done so far. The main, like, dungeons, so Cacti, Canyon and whatever it's called, and you've got Soggy Swamps, they don't seem to take as long, but the secret one takes forever. And is good. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's good to have to go through a dungeon and play it for ages to make sure you're fully exploring and getting everything possible that you can from that run. I played a little bit of Diablo in the past. I played quite a bit of, was it Warhammer Inquisitor? I think that's the right one. I played quite a bit of that. And I love this, like, structure to a game. But we also noticed emeralds. They are a currency in the game which you can use back in camp to try and get better gear and artifacts. And this Creepy Crypt dungeon awarded so many emeralds. That hour run netted us about 1,200 emeralds. And that is a lot, especially at the start of the game. But then moving on from that, there are different loot types in the game. You have, like, you don't have too much depth to the different weapon types in terms of, like, let me explain this one properly. You get your armor, you get your melee, and you get your ranged. That's the 3 different types of weapons, like 3 different main types of gear, but then they branch off. You have wolf armor, hunter's armor, spelunker armor, like there's so many different types of armor, they have different benefits and different perks. And then you have several different types of melee weapons, so you would get your standard sword, you get daggers, sickles, glaives. There are a few more, I can't think of them off the top of my head. But then with the bows, you get a slick bow, you get a long bow, a crossbow, I believe you get a scatter bow. And then you also get the different rarities, and so far we've only seen common, rare, and unique. Unique being like orange, and is like your legendary stuff. But the good thing about the unique stuff is it is actually unique. I got this bow that was firing this arrow, and every time you fire it, it sort of spins in a circle and it just goes boing, 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 boing. And it actually ricochets off enemies. It goes through some enemies and attacks others behind it, and it deals a good amount of damage. So there is a very, very good amount of variety within the weapons. It wasn't just a standard glaive, I got a venom glaive. I would have, like, by default, without having to put an enchantment on, I would have, like, a 20% chance to trigger a poison gas cloud when I'm hitting enemies. Although I did get rid of that because I felt it was taking a little bit too long for me to hit the enemies, like the attack speed was a little bit too slow, and I don't think there was an enchantment available to speed that up. So I started using, I believe it's a solo dagger, because you can get dual wield daggers, but it was a solo dagger, like a single-handed dagger. And when I hit enemies, it increases my soul gathering, because you've got soul gathering on this as well. And the soul gathering is used for things like, there's an artifact in the game called Corrupted Beacon, and when you fill it up with souls, you hold down number 3 or whatever the button is to use it, and it will basically fire this OP laser beam at a massive, like, group of mobs. It's insane using it. I have since replaced it with other things, but it's very good. Like, some of the weapons complement the artifacts. There's not just, you use this weapon, use this artifact. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot of depth to this game. One thing I would like to point out that is a negative, the pets absolutely suck. The only ones I've seen so far is like a wolf, and you get a bat as well from some of the armor. They don't really do a lot. They take forever to attack. They don't have a lot of health, although you can just like respawn them. But in my opinion, they suck. As we were talking about earlier, the mob spawns, the numbers are crazy, and I don't know if that does differ depending how many players are playing in that game. But on 3-player, we'd walk into a room, and sometimes there would be like 40 different mobs, and they all charge at you. Creepers, skeletons, zombies, wizards, like, there's so many different types of enemies that can spawn in the same room. Like, you have to be strategic about it. You need to know when to use your potion. You need to know when to, like, pull back and retreat and, like, play the ranged game instead of melee. And there's a lot of different strategies you can take into a game. But as well as the difficulties of going through default 1 to 6, you also have different world difficulties. I can't remember the second one's name, but there are 3 in total. You have default, the middle one, and then you have apocalypse. In order to unlock the middle one, you have to take down like the main boss on default difficulty. And then in order to unlock Apocalypse, you need to take down the middle, like, main boss. So you need to go through the game a second time to unlock the 3rd difficulty so that you can play through that as well. But each of the difficulties for the world, they will have better loot, stronger enemies, it's going to be more of a challenge, there's going to be different, like, stronger artifacts and things. So it gives you the replayability to go through the game again. And that is hopefully what I'll be doing, because I've seen a screenshot posted on Twitter. Someone's actually got, like, power level 103. Like, they have a full inventory of uniques that are ranging from power 103 to like 107. Like, it looks insane when you get to like the end game. And then we have like the level design. There are some flaws with the game. It doesn't work perfectly. Like, it's not a perfect 10 out of 10 game. I'm not going to be rating games as much anymore, because I always seem to give a game a rating, and then like a couple of months later I look back at that game and I think, oh my god, I regret my decision. So it's definitely not a 10 out of 10. It is sitting quite high, but I'm not giving it a solid rating. But the level design is cool. You have different biomes, you have, like, as I said, they're procedurally generated maps, so each time you go into a dungeon, the layout will be different, although the style, the biome will stay the same. There are some bits that can be a little bit irritating. If you're walking underneath a bridge and you're clicking on the bridge, it will just keep you in the same place instead of moving you past it, but there's nothing to worry about because you just click somewhere else on the screen. But the graphics are good, like, it looks very, very nice. Like, it's a visually pleasing game. It's got its Minecraft skin, and you have different areas. Like we went into a lava one in, I think it was Redstone Mines or something. There was like loads of lava everywhere. There was mine carts that actually hit you and they send you flying a little bit and deal damage. It's cool. I like the layout of the levels, the design, the graphics are good. So that's all a positive. They've stated that cross-platform will be worked on in the near future. So if you're on PC, you can play with your friends on PS4, and that should work across Xbox as well. Like Xbox can play with PS4 players and play with PC players. Like you can basically, Xbox, PS4, PC can all cross-play. There was another downfall to the game, which I'm really not happy with the way it's done. But you do get main bosses. Like you get a big boss health bar at the top of your screen, and you're in like an actual locked arena sort of area. And you do have to take these big bosses down, and some of them do not award loot. I do not like it when I'm working my arse off to take down a boss and I get no reward for it. That to me doesn't make sense. Although the Venom Glaive I was talking about, which was one of my first unique melee weapons, that actually dropped off a boss. So you've got like a chance of getting good loot off a boss. You can just get your standard like hunter armor, like the boring loot, you can get no loot, or you can get something out of this world. Like crazy sort of loot. But then another good thing is you don't really find artifacts during the dungeons. You find your gear drops like your armor, your weapons, but then when you get to the end of the level, if you look at the bottom right of the screen, you actually get this chest. You open this chest and it awards you a artifact. They range in levels, and I would just like to say this about the artifacts. The firework arrow is so overpowered, it's unbelievable. And when I say overpowered, I mean you fire that arrow, and it doesn't have a big cooldown, I think it's 20 or 30 seconds. You fire that arrow into a group of mobs. If you have infinity on your bow, you can have like 3 or 4 firework arrows in a row. Like the enchantment, like it adds a whole new level to play in the game, because you have, like, you can burn enemies as you hit them, you can get all of your arrows back, like there's a 48% chance when you've got tier 3 infinity to get your arrow back. That works with the firework one as well. You have things like looting, which will drop extra consumables. There's a lot of different enchantments in the game, and it goes into depth with them. They have their different tiers. Some weapons will only have one enchantment available. The enchantments will suck, and then you'll find another one exactly the same that will have 2 different enchantments you can have, and they'll be a lot better. So there's a factor of RNG in there as well. You're not always going to get the best loot, you're not always going to get the worst, and it feels quite balanced, which is really, really good. So you get your normal loot in the mission, you get your end of level loot, and then you go back to the camp, and you have a blacksmith. So the emeralds you find, the currency, you can use them at the blacksmith, and he will give you different pieces of armor and different weapons. But not only that, as you get further into the game, you will get, I think he's called a traveling wanderer, or a wandering traveler, like the other way around, I'm not entirely sure, but you will be able to use your emeralds to purchase artifacts off this wanderer. So that's good as well. I don't know what else happens after that, because I believe I've done 5 or 6 of the 9 main missions, and I'm literally about 5-6 hours in, or something crazy. I've got a lot of recordings for this game, because I've recorded the whole lot. And I'm hoping, if I don't get fed up with editing and stuff, because they are quite long videos, then I will make it into a playthrough. There are a couple of other downfalls at the moment, but I'm hoping they can be squashed because they are bugs. There are server disconnections, and they happen quite often. When you spawn into a dungeon for the first time, it can disconnect you straight away. It will kick everyone out. Sometimes it's a pain to log back onto the servers, but once you have logged back on, you log back in. Normally the second time round, the dungeon will work straight away. So it's not too bad, but it's a little bit irritating because I don't believe the server disconnection should be there in the first place. And then the other one is, it's only happened to me once, but I have fallen through the map as I've spawned in. And it's not fun because you just fall for a minute, then it says you're dead, you respawn. But not only that, some of the emeralds you find can actually fall through the map. They can fall into areas that are inaccessible. So it's kind of like the developers haven't put invisible barriers in some areas so that loot can't disappear and stuff. But it's not anything that's game breaking. Like, it's not going to take you away from the immersion of the game or anything like that. It's just irritating for it to happen every now and then. But as I said, it's not often. I've literally fell through the map once. I've disconnected maybe 3 or 4 times in the matter of like 6 hours worth of playing. And as I said, you just reconnect to the servers and it normally works on the second time. But that is going to do it for the review. As I said, I'm not going to give it a rating, but I do recommend playing this game. It is definitely worth picking up. And even after watching this review, if you still can't make your mind up, just go play the game. If you have Game Pass, it's free. If not, it's £17. And even though I'm reviewing it to give you my opinions, it's always best to decide yourself. Like, I can watch 100 reviews for a game let's just say, I don't know, something that, like Division 2. It's been very popular on my channel over the last year or so. So, we'll say Division 2, I could watch 100 reviews, everyone say, oh, it's amazing. I could go play it, not like it at all. So I'd like you guys to make up your own minds, but that is my opinions on Minecraft Dungeons. And on that note, that's going to do it for the video. I'd like you to let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.